this one. There we go. It was very, very technical there. I had to do some technical, quick technical stuff, as in read the actual menus. The things that I had to do. Just a couple of notes before we go ahead and get started, because I'm sure not everyone is familiar with Wisys, and there are a few of you probably who know it quite well and are just looking to get what the capabilities are. Way back when, in the early 2000s, Macola was owned by its employees and was headed by Bruce Hollinger, the president. And the company was bought out by Exact Software, and Bruce Hollinger was bought out, and he retired. And after about 3 years, he got bored and decided that what he wanted to do was to fill a niche in the Macola market that was sorely lacking. And in this case, it was the warehouse management piece. The Macola offering, if anybody's ever looked at it, is actually quite old and tired and stale. And
of the warehouse management.
Of the warehouse management piece. And since then, Macola has wholeheartedly embraced the Wisys solution and has dropped their own in-house warehouse management piece that they had been selling in the past. And hopefully in this demo today, I'll be able to show you why that is. It's a very robust, full-featured product. What I'm going to show today is the core offering, which is what you get when you buy just the very core offering of Wisys. Wisys actually has 3 major components. One, which we have one of our customers who's on the line here using quite a bit, there's an SDK offering. And for you technical types, what that means is that we can actually write code and call these SDK objects to make Macola things happen. For the Endyme folks, if you recall yesterday, we talked about actually creating a order entry front end. And we would use that using these objects. And these objects are actually what Wisys uses in order to transact its own data. From that point, they've built on top of that 2 major pieces. We have the Wisys Pocket ES Explorer, which is actually run on the Symbol 9090 handheld computers, which you can go about and walk through your warehouse and transact data. And we also have the Agility Explorer, which is meant as a desktop application, and in many cases can enhance and in some cases even replace the Macola client. And we're going to be jumping back and forth between those 2 today to kind of give you an idea of what each does and why you would use one over the other. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and jump on in here. And I'm sure all of you are familiar with Macola, so let's just use a particular screen that everybody uses in Macola and take a look at that same screen in the Wisys Pocket ES piece. And what we have here is this is the Motorola 9090 portable computer. Okay. And I've set up a, did someone have a question?
Oh, that was me, Andy. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, and what we're going to do is we can log on to, and you can see here that we can have many companies, and we can choose which company that we want to log into, and we would log in with a user ID and password. And that user ID and password then will allow me as a system administrator to decide what this gun can and can't do. So for instance, I can have this user have the capability of doing a inventory count, but not inventory transactions. I could have them do confirm shipping, but not do pallet issue and receive, for instance. And basically on this screen, we have the entire core offering of Macola. And we're going to go look at every single one of these today. And we're going to try to do it in under an hour, so we leave time at the end for questions. So we're going to go ahead and start moving on here. Everybody's familiar with multi-level item view. Now, the whole idea behind these guns is to never have to type on this keyboard. The whole idea is that you're always going to use the scanner to scan the data in so that you don't have to type it in. Now, since I have a demo system here, I'm actually typing this here on the keyboard. But we can see that as soon as I pull this up, it's going to then show me how many I have on hand, how many are allocated, how many back order, how many are on order. And if I click on the little location icon, I can see that this particular item is stocked in the Massachusetts warehouse. And by then, I can then see that it is a binned item and a serial lot controlled item. So if I click on bins, it will show me where this particular item is as far as bins are concerned. And I can check and see where this particular item exists or what serial lot numbers this particular item consists of. Oh, got to pick a serial lot item, Andy. So it very similarly mimics the Macola multi-level item view. I can also then go here and select to have printers defined, and from this screen I can then print labels so that if I see that I need additional labels, I can go from my multi-level item view screen and I can go ahead and print product labels to print on my product and such. So the reason I'm showing you the multi-level item view is as we transact data here, we're going to see that these particular pieces are going to increase or decrease depending on what we have. And what I set up here is an item called Bolt 2. It exists both in the MA and the CA locations, and you can see we currently have 0 in stock. Okay. All right, so that of course is not actually transacting any data, but what we're going to do next is we're going to take a look at the inventory transaction capability within the Wisys guns. And we have the capability within the guns of doing issues, receipts, and transfers. Now these are your old traditional Macola issues, receipts, and transfers. So if you're moving inventory around the warehouse or if you're just receiving in inventory that's not on a PO, we can do that here through IM receipts. And I'm going to go ahead and go in here and do an IM receipt against one of those bolts. And it'll go through here and allow us to put in the data that we want. I'm going to put them in location MA. And it knows that this particular item is a binned item. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it that it's in bin 101. And it's going to then tell me, just like Macola would, that that item is not, that item does not exist in this bin at that time yet. Do I wish to add the bin? And I'll say yes. And then I can tell it how many I'm putting in and comment WMS demo. And I'm going to go ahead and receive those. Now, those of you who have had some familiarity with the Macola warehouse management piece know that the old Macola warehouse management piece was batch-oriented, which means that if your polling server wasn't running in the background, that transaction never made it into Macola. Or if there was an error associated with that particular transaction, that transaction never made it to Macola until you did barcode exception processing. This is 100% real time. We are actually talking to the Macola database here. So if I now look at my multi-level item view and look at item number Bolt 2, I can now see that I have, how many did I say? 10 in stock. And I can see what location they're in just by clicking on location. They're in the MA location. And in a moment here, since it's a binned item, it will also show me what bin it's in. So what we're showing you is the concept of what I call moving the point of data entry. You know, in the olden days, what we would do is we would have the warehouse clerk fill in a move ticket, hand it off to accounting, and then accounting would enter the move ticket by means of an inventory transaction in Macola, like this particular screen right here. But what the whole idea behind warehouse management is that we're going to move that point of data entry to the actual point of origin so that we don't have to fill in move tickets or any type of paperwork like that. We can just go ahead and transact that data right on the floor real time. Okay. Not surprisingly, we can also do an issue of inventory. Oh, actually, it could close, sorry. Get myself out of all the menu levels I'm in. We can do an inventory issue. Now, I'm not going to bother actually doing an inventory issue because obviously that's not all that exciting, but I can do issues and receipts. Notice that what I did is I went into the and received 10 into location MA. And what I want to do now is I want to transfer those to California. Now, there's two ways to do that. Here's the old tried and true method of moving it. So I want to take my bolt 2 and I want to take it from location MA to location California. And I'm going to move it into bin number ABC or ABB. It should tell me that that bin does, from location, sorry. Got to read my screen properly. And now I'm going to move it to location CA and bin ABC. And how many am I going to transfer? I'm going to transfer, first of all, it tells me that that bin does not exist. I'm going to say yes, I'm going to add that. I'm going to move 4, and my comment is going to be WMS demo. And I'm going to go ahead and transfer those. And now if I go back to my multi-level item view, yes, I know, I hate that sound. And look at my, multi-level item view, we can now see that bolt 2, we still have 10 on hand, or at least we should. However, now it's split between my California location and my Massachusetts location. And if I click my California location, it's going to determine that that's a bin-controlled item, and as such, will allow me to take a look at what particular bin that item is in this case, ABC. All right, now that's the old-fashioned way of transferring product. There's another way that was added in later years to progression and was a standard feature in Macaulay Yes, and that's transit inventory. So what I can do if I'd like is I can go and add a in-transit warehouse or an in-transit transaction saying I wish to transact and create a in-transit transaction. I'm going to say it's not pending, but that it's been approved. And I'm going to go ahead and say it originates from MA. It has an in-transit location of IT, and it's going to move to location CA. Everybody's somewhat familiar with that? All right. And we can choose what items we want to move and put on the trailer, for instance. No, I don't want to add landed costs. And I just realized I have to add a inventory, that bolt 2 to inventory location IT. One moment, please. I added that this morning at the last minute. And save. And So now I'm also going to add a bolt 2, and I'm going to transfer 3 of those. And no, I don't want landed costs. Now I have a in-transit transaction to move these 2 items from MA. Apparently what they're going to do is they're going to get on a truck, in which case they're going to be in the in-transit location. And then once they're in California, they're going to move from the in-transit location out to California. So in order to transact this, what we're going to do is we're going to load the truck. And the way we load the truck is we just go in and use the gun, and we scan these items as we put them on the truck. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do what's called an in-transit ship. And what we're going to do is take the transaction that we just created, and we're going to say that we've actually put this item on the truck. And notice that it's going from MA to the in-transit location. We're going to do bolt. We're going to tell it what bin it came out of. And, oh, bolt is not a binned item, but bolt 2 is. And we're going to tell it that we packed 10. Now I'm going to actually stop right there and take a look at the multi-level item view, because what happened now is the multi-level item view should show that that item has now moved from the MA warehouse and into the in-transit warehouse. And you can see now we have 10 in the in-transit warehouse. If we continue on, we're going to go ahead and now finish up that transaction.
And Andy, if I might add,
please.
In the standard software, in the standard Macola software, you don't have the option of doing this.
Right.
You actually, in the standard product,
it's all or nothing, right?
It's all or nothing, and that's not
right.
the case when you're using the warehouse management. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, exactly, because the whole concept here is the warehouse management person is standing out back, loading the truck, and showing and identifying what's actually being loaded as it's being loaded onto the truck. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and say we're shipping 3 of these and let it transact. Okay?
So, Teresa, could you clarify what you just said? I'm not sure if I followed that.
In the standard in-transit inventory,
yep.
if you have on that order, if you have, let's say, 10 items on that order, when you move it from approved to shipped, it automatically absolutely ships everything and puts it in transit.
Right, right. So, yeah, and we use that feature now. So let me.
And what Andy is showing you is that with the gun, what you can do is you can individually put the items on the truck. So, Andy, can you then put partial items on as well?
Yeah, exactly. So you can put half on truck 1 and half on truck 2, for instance, and maintain
or not ship them at all.
Or not. Well, and that's what I was going to show next. So
okay. Which is huge for you guys at Glacier.
Right. Now, let's say that the California warehouse called up and said, you know, those high-grade bolts, we just found a whole big box of them in the back, and we don't need them after all. Can you go ahead and just pull those off the truck? We can now do that by doing what's called an in-transit unship. So we can go into the in-transit unship, go back and pull up the inventory transaction, and tell it which item. Sorry, noise in the background there. And tell it which item we're pulling off the truck and what bin we're putting it back into and how many. Oh. And 3. And save it. And now that in-transit piece has been pulled off of that in-transit document, and now we're only transferring bolts. And the only thing left to do is once it gets to California, they have their own gun. We go into the in-transit, oops, not unreceive, Andy. In-transit receive. it is. Now we simply receive that product into my California warehouse. So you can see that it's going from in transit to California. We're telling it the bolt came in, and we're telling it now that it's going, and we actually did receive 10 of them. Or if 2 of them fell off the back of the truck on the way over there, we can identify that we didn't actually get 10, we actually got 8. But if I say 10, save it, and now look at my multi-level item view again, we can see that we have none remaining in the in-transit location, and all of them now have been received into the California warehouse. All right. Any questions about that? We're about to move on to purchasing.
I have questions, Andy. This is Rose.
Hi, Rose.
I have 2 questions. The first is you were showing here how when it comes now to the California warehouse, they do the scanning and it puts it in, and they can put partials in if some fell off the truck. I get all that. What I don't understand is my question is, what if the other warehouses don't have the Wisys gun and they simply want to enter it into Macola, you know, kind of the old-fashioned way?
Question. You can still begin the transaction and get it shipped by using the standard in-transit inventory screen. So if they only have Macola on their end, you can still initiate the in-transit warehouse shipment by just telling it, you know, that it's been shipped. And then you can still use the gun to receive on the other end.
I think she's saying the other way around, Andy.
Right.
Oh, okay.
That they would ship it with the gun, but then they could receive it with the standard software.
Correct. Yeah, the 2 are interchangeable. But the only limitation with the Macola one is that you can't, if you have 10 line items on the in-transit, when you tell it that it's received, it's going to automatically receive all 10 of those items. You can't tell it that, no, item number 3 was missing and didn't get received. You'd actually have to do an inventory adjustment after the fact.
So Andy, bottom line is to have this work where you could do partial receipts and still then have open, what I'm going to call back orders. In other words, you know, you only shipped partial because you didn't have all the parts. The only way to get that to work across all 12 of our divisions is all 12 of us would have to have the gun to make that work. Otherwise, if they're in a division and they receive it but don't have the gun, they have to receive the whole thing even though I only shipped a partial?
Yeah. The answer is, if you want to use the in-transit function like I showed you, yes, you would have to use the guns. However, I mean, you don't have to use the guns to do an issue and receive, right? You could actually do an inventory transaction and issue or transfer the bolt from location MA to IT, right? So you could still do it that way, in which case it will mimic pretty much the same activity. It will move that bolt from Massachusetts to the in-transit warehouse, and you would still have full visibility that it's in an in-transit location, but you would have to transact these one at a time using the Macola screen. So that would work just fine.
Okay, so let me make certain that I understand this. So let's say I have 2 parts on the order. I have the 1 part, they're ordering 10, I have all 10. The second part, they ordered 10, I only have 5. I do it with the gun, it goes perfectly. It gets to the other side, they have no gun, they have to do the receipt, so then they have to go in and receive each one manually, but it will allow them to receive 10 of the first line item and only 5 of the second line item, even though the second line item
depends on how did you put the in-transit. Yeah, Teresa, you want to take over there?
Andy, what they do is they use the enter transit inventory, and the answer, Rose, is no, they would still have to, they would then receive it on their end, and you're right, if they were going to be able to receive only a portion of what you shipped, like one fell off the back, they'd have to have the gun there as well, or they'd have to go ahead and receive it the way that you shipped it, and then, you know, issue out that one with doing an inventory transaction to fill off the truck.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, very good. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to purchase order receiving. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to issue a couple or input a couple of purchase orders for bolts and stems. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create my purchase order here with vendor number. I know. Let's see. Who did I use? I forget. Heritage Leasing. Why not? It's a released PO. And I'm buying, first of all, I'm buying bolts, and I'm buying 100 of them. So that's that PO, and I'm going to go ahead and print the PO. So I printed the PO. Yes, it printed properly. I'm going to go ahead and do one more PO, and I'm going to do this to vendor number 700. It's released, and for this one, I'm actually buying bolt 2s, and I'm buying 1,500 of them. Going to print the PO, and now I have purchase orders that I can deal with. All right, so that was purchase orders number 63 and 64. And these are bin-controlled items. So I purposely picked a bin-controlled item so that you can see exactly how the purchase order receiving works when it comes to the guns. One of the things that you may not have noticed when you're setting up and playing with the guns here, there's a little button here that allows me to customize how the gun works. So if I click on that and say Options, one of the things that you'll notice is that I've set up a receiving bin, and the receiving bin I've called dock. So what that does for a bin-controlled item is it allows you to receive against a purchase order for a bin-controlled item and have it automatically then received into location dock without even asking you. You can just have it automatically go into dock so that the minute it shows up and goes into the dock location, it's shown in your inventory so that you can, your CSRs, whoever that are looking for that part, can see immediately that it's there. It's probably not been put away yet because it's in the dock location. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and do a inventory receipt against my bolt 2. And it's telling me that here's the purchase order number. There's 1,500 of them. If I want, rather than typing in the bolt 2, I could have just as easily have typed in or scanned the item number, and it will find the PO as well. So I can either scan the item number or the purchase order, or in my case, like I did, I typed it in, and show me that item. And if there were multiple lines, obviously I can just pick which one that I want to receive against. I'm going to go ahead and tell it that I am receiving 1,450, and it's going to go ahead and process that transaction. And, oops, what was that? Now if I look at multi-level item view, and I look at my, what was that, bolt 2? I now have on hand 1,460, which was my original 10, plus the 1,450 that I just received in. And if I look at location, one of the things you'll see is in my warehouse MA location, it's going to show me that it's in bin dock. So they're sitting there on the dock right now, and that's the way I've configured the system to work. So the whole idea behind that is a typical purchase order receipt process, a two-step process. you got to get the stuff off the truck and into your inventory so that you can start looking and using it. And then the second step would be to actually put it away in the warehouse. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and do the second step of this, and we're going to go ahead and do the put away.
So just receive something in.
All right, so now I'm going to do a, wherever my, there it is. Too many things on my gun turned on. So I'm going to go to bolt 2. And you can see here, by the way, that I don't even have to type anything. It's showing me everything that's currently on the dock. So I can just double click here and tell it how many I'm putting away. I don't have to put away all 1,450 at a time. Someone needs to mute their line, please. I don't know, someone has their line unmuted and it's really loud.
I think it's Chris, I think.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and receive 1,450, and we're going to put those away. And what it's going to do is it's going to ask us what bin that we put in. And we're going to go ahead and transact that data. Going to go ahead and transact all of those pieces. And now notice it drops off of my put away list and now has come into my multi-level item view into my finished location at the bin that I told it to. And if I look at locations, it now shows the bin that it's in. And now notice dock is now empty, and now all 1,450 of those are in location DDD within my warehouse and are available for me to consume. And that, one of the things that I really failed to mention here, I really should discuss, is each one of these transactions has a pre and post print event that can be associated with it. So if I wish to print a label every time that I receive bolts, I can set it up to automatically then print barcode labels specific to the format of the bolt that I want. And it's easily done by going into options here. I can go to docs and I can define whatever document I wish to produce and associate it with either like an issue, a receipt, a inventory transaction, whatnot, and those barcodes then are automatically printed out pre-transaction or post-transaction. I've actually turned that off just for demo purposes. But it's important to note that this has a full label producing mechanism built in so that as I'm doing purchase order receiving, I can have it print out the barcode labels immediately at that point where I can then stick those on the inventory items that I'm stocking. Okay? Unless there's any questions, we're going to move away from purchase order receiving and we're going to move on to counting.
I have two questions, Andy. My first question is, you know, you entered in there the bin location that you wanted those bolts to go into, but yes, does the system provide a default bin location? If you already have bolts 2 in bin location 1, 2, 3, will it default to that, or do I have to know what the bin location is and have to enter it every single time?
No, there is a default setting that I have turned off that'll say receive to existing location. And if there's more than one, I'm sorry, I should say bin, receive to existing bin only. And if there are multiple bins where that item is actually stocked, it will actually look at the bin priority so that it will know that bin A has a higher priority than bin B and will stock it into bin A. In which case it will pull up bin A and then you can override it and still stock it into B if you prefer.
Perfect. And my second question is, you indicated that when you do the receipt, that you can go in there and print, including a barcode label that you could put like on the bin. That barcode label is only the part number and then the actual like CPC code on there kind of thing. It's not quantity.
I think we got about every third word you were saying. You were cutting out, but I think you're asking what's the format of that particular label. The format of the label is fully defined by you as to what you want. And you can literally change the format for each item that you're receiving. So if you have an item that's a big item and requires a big label, you can choose to have that big label printed and associated with that item. Or if it's a real small item, you can choose to have that barcode or the small barcode printed for that particular item.
Okay.
Is that your question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Are they I guess they're not talking to us there. All right. All right, so going on to inventory counting, we can, what we're going to do is, I'm going to delete the tags I currently have just to show you that we're going to start over and create a new batch. I'm going to go ahead and delete this batch. And we're going to create some new tags. I'm going to go to Physical Count Tag Select, and I'm going to call this WMS Demo, and it's for location CA, and I'm going to go ahead and create those tags. I'm not going to bother printing them, and I'm still not going to bother printing them. And now I've created an inventory count batch for Macola. And those tags are immediately visible to me in my gun. So I can just tell it that I'm looking at WMS Demo, and I want to find out what tag BC Caliper or what tag that particular item is on. Oops. And it should tell me that it's tag number 312. These views, by the way, are definable. So if you never actually have bin or never have serial number, I can actually pull that bin number off and confirm and identify how I want the gun to look. If I want to, then I can put my bin number back in. I can move these columns around, put them any way that I want, and get the information that I need. If I'm ready to start counting, the core WMS offering does counting the way that Macola counts. It counts by tag, bin, or item. And we can choose to count by bin, we can choose to count by item, or we can choose to count by tag. And I'm just going to go ahead and pick an item at random here and count it. And I'm going to select tag 10. I have no idea how many of these we actually have, but I counted 150 of them. My gun will tell me that it's counted now if I try counting that again. And if I do it by bin, it will logically carry me through the warehouse in bin sequence, and then move on to the next bin as I go. Now, one of the things that you probably know is if you've done a Macola count before, the viewing that count history is difficult at best. And this is where I'm going to go ahead and introduce agility. Agility, we have a module here. If I can pull up the right piece. Maybe I don't have it open. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the agility piece. The agility piece is a piece of software that expands and enhances the capability of the warehouse management piece and Macola. Many of the things that you currently do in Macola can actually be done in agility and can be done more efficiently and more effectively in agility. And one of the things I'm going to show you here is how we can view data in agility, if it ever comes up here, that would be difficult to see in Macola other than just printing out a report. what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up inventory. I'm going to go to count tag status. It's just going to go in here and allow me to pick which batch it is that I want to view, and it will then show me, here's all my tags, and here's what I've counted so far. And you know in Macola, there's no easy way to see this. If I want, I can immediately start by looking here and saying, I want to see all of my counts that I've done so far that have more than a 10% variance. It'll go through and it'll show me all of those items that have more than a 10% variance. And you can see here up top, it shows me all of my items. Let me get this down here a little bit. Here's all of my items. And as I scroll through, you can see that there are many who are not counted. But this first one where we actually issued a count, you can see that we had this one has been counted, tag number 310. The frozen quantity was 985. The count quantity was 150. Therefore, we have a count variance of 845 to the tune of $81,000. So with Macola, usually what you would have to do is you have to print out this report. It was very difficult to read. What I can do with Agility is I can kind of monitor the status of the count as it's going on. So while those my warehouse people are out there counting, I can then monitor the status of that count. So you can see that here we have all the pieces that have still yet to be counted. So I'm going to go back to my gun and go ahead and plug in number 311. And it is in a B cable, and I counted 375 of them. I have no idea if that's a good number or not. I'm going to mark it as counted and post it and refresh this. And now notice that 311 has dropped off the list. If I do my, oops, what did I just do? If I do my pre-post audit here again and refresh that, and now look at my BC cable, we can see that it's also counted that the frozen quantity was 1,000, the count quantity was 375, therefore we have a variance of 645. Now, that is the core capability of the warehouse management in order to do counting. There is an optional count capability that we're not going to go over today, but I want you to know that it exists, and that is the capability of doing serial and lot counting. If you've done inventory in Macola before, you know that if it's a serial or a lotted item, and you basically count all of the serial numbers and plug those in as one number into the serial or into the count, and if you're off, what you then have to do is after your count is posted, you would have to adjust your inventory, and you adjust out or adjust in the serial or lot number that's either short or over. What the warehouse management piece will allow you to do is it will allow you to scan those serial numbers individually and build up, in essence, the tag. So as you're scanning those serial numbers, it's building up the count quantity in the tag itself. And then there's a whole set of views here in Agility that allow me to identify serial problems to review, where it'll tell me, all right, you have this serial number on file, but it's not been counted, or you don't have the serial number on file. Was it a misscan or a mistype or something like that? And we're gonna do that in a separate seminar as to how that actually works, but that's beyond the scope of today's demo. And finally, one other thing I wanted to point out. Oh, this one actually.
So what are you saying, that you could have something with a serial number on it, or so many things that are identical with serial numbers, and you can plug in the serial number, it'll tell you how many of them items?
Well, sure. Yes, exactly. And it will tell you that by serial and lot number, because in the olden days, Macola didn't actually count serial or lot items. It was up to you to determine which serial number was missing and to transact that out as a serial lot adjustment. Now, if we have a number of tags that we know is obsolete product and we're not actually going to count those, I can go ahead and mark those here as obsolete items, and I can just say I'm going to mark those as counted. And what then happens is those are not going to show up on the gun, and I can just move ahead from 312 to 317. Okay, we can also do, well, I'm not going to belabor the point because we're getting already close to the hour. Any questions in terms of the inventory count? The only thing that would be left to do here would be to go into Macola and actually post your count. All right, no questions, very good. Last thing we're going to cover is the actual shipping of a piece or a confirmed shipping of an order. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to enter a sales order. And this is, like I said, all part of the core package. So if you have your system set to confirm ship, you would use this, you could use the guns out on the floor as the warehouse personnel are pulling the pieces from the bins, scanning them to an order, and relieving inventory right at the time when they're pulling the inventory and putting it on the cart to ship out to the customer. So I'm going to go ahead and create an order. I'm going to go with customer number 904. And I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to order bolts. And oops, and I'm going to order 15 of them. And I'm going to also order bolt 2s. I'm going to order 5 of them. And notice that we only have 4 in stock in California. So I'm going to go ahead and change that and say yes, yes, yes. I'm going to actually just ship 3. And now, what I would typically do is print a pick ticket. Now, I can do that out of Macola, but I can do that actually much easier out of my agility module if I could figure out which was the right icon. There we go. So if I now close my inventory and go into order processing instead, I have pick management. And I can go into pick management and pull up a list of my warehouses to identify what orders are out there waiting to be picked. And if I click OK, my order that was it, Teresa, I'm sure you paid attention, it was order 84, right?
Yeah.
All right.
I think so.
So we could, yeah. So here we have all the orders that are waiting to ship. And one of the things that the WMS pick management piece does is it will actually go out there and allow you to take a look at items that are on back order and items that are just plain short. So I can see here that I'm not going to be able to fulfill order number 78 until I get more bike PPs in. But I can go ahead and say that I'm going to process order number 84 and print a pick ticket for it. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to print a pick ticket, and it's going to go ahead and print it out to my printer here. It has barcodes on it so that I can then scan the barcode directly and do my confirm ship. So this is printing out back in the warehouse, and as soon as I say yes, that item is now a picked item, and it will now fall off the list here. If I want to take a look at pick ticket history, I can take a look at what pick tickets I printed, when I printed them. Much nicer than in Macola. We have the capability of seeing when it was printed and the full information associated with that. Pick ticket, I'm not even sure. Oh, yes. Well, we don't need to talk about that one. And order status. So what I'm going to do now is it's at a status 4, which means that it's picked. And I am now going to, oops, let's see. Must be that one. I'll just do this, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to confirm ship that particular item. I'm going to go to shipping here. And we're running out of time here, so I'm going to talk about shipping, and then we're going to just talk about stage shipping. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to ship order number 84. It's going to tell me all the items that are on that order that I'm going to ship. And like I said, I have my pick ticket in front of me, so I'm just scanning the item number. And on my pick ticket, I can also choose on my next item to have my bins printed that I want to pull it from so that the user can go directly to that bin and go to 84 and now pull up my bolt. And before we do that, I want to show you that my multi-level item view has been decremented because, well, did anybody keep track of how many were on hand before of my bolts? Probably not. But my bolts will show as having been decremented that many because I'm set up to confirm ship. And as soon as I confirm shipped those items are pulled out of inventory. Okay? Yeah, I believe that they've been pulled out. I'm going to go back and I'm going to confirm ship that second item. Pull up item number 84. And pull up my bolt 2. Tell it what bin it's pulling me out of. And notice what happens here, Rose, I think, because this will interest you. It'll tell me right here where to go find it. Because it's a binned item, and it knows that there are 4 of these in bin ABC, and there's 4 of them out there. So I can just say, yeah, I'm at bin ABC, I see them, and I'm pulling 3 of them.
So do you have to select the bin then each time that you are going to pull the parts for?
I've configured it. I've configured it that way. What I can also do in warehouse management is I can configure it to also then default the bin number on that data entry portion. So that if you're actually pulling it from that bin, all you have to do is click next. But think about it a minute. You're standing in front of the bin. It has a barcode on it that is the bin number. So you're going to scan the bin number. You're not going to type it in.
Yeah.
The whole idea behind warehouse management is never to have to type anything. Right? Okay.
Yes.
And now that particular sales order is fully filled. I've shipped everything. And what I can do now is go back to my agility and take a look at order billing. So no longer do you have to do order billing within Macola. I can just stay within my nice, friendly agility screen here, go to my order billing screen. I can see here we have all the orders that are confirmed shipped. I can go in, highlight it, and just tell it that I want it billed. And notice what happens here. As soon as I click that I want it billed, it asks me, do I want to mark it as having been invoiced? So for you people who send out invoices via Event Manager and never actually need to print a paper invoice, you can bypass the whole print invoice process just by answering yes here. It's going to go ahead and it's going to take that sales order and it's going to mark it with a status 9, which means that it has been invoiced and is ready to be posted. Yeah. My invoice form is bad. And we'll then now mark it. If I look at my order status and I look at order number
84.
84, I'm just going to go ahead and select invoice printed. I'm glad someone's paying attention. We can see it's been printed, has an invoice number. No, I don't know that I have invoice number. Oh yeah, here we go. Invoice date, and I could add the invoice number if I wanted to, or whatever field I wanted to. So it's a nice, easy way to take those invoices, never have to go back into Macola again after you've done the initial order entry. So once you've done the initial order entry within Macola, you can use Wisys Agility to print your pick tickets, and it's a lot more interactive than the Macola pick ticket capability. I can go into the gun to confirm ship that particular order, and then when I'm done, I can come back into Agility and bill it and have it selected and have the invoice printed all at the same time. All right, and I'm going to open it up to questions in just a moment, but I wanted to point out one other feature that I'm afraid we're just not going to get to because we're already over the hour, and that's called ship staging. What ship staging does is it allows me to take a whole wad of pick tickets, put them all together, and the idea being that I'm going to go through and pull these 5 pick tickets worth of product all at the same time, and I'm going to put them on my cart. And then when I pull that cart back to the shipping location, then I'm going to burst that cart out to the individual orders. So I have my capability here of ship staging, where I'm putting all that stuff on a cart, and then I would still do my confirm or my confirmed shipping here. But in that case, what it's going to do is it always will look to see if there's items that have been staged, and if so, it'll automatically see them on my cart and pull them right off the cart and fulfill the order that way. That's kind of the end of my presentation, unless you have some specific questions or comments or wish to issue us a PO. Just thought I'd throw that in. Questions?
I don't see any questions.
I've lulled everybody to sleep.
Are you guys offering scholarships?
Are we offering what?
Scholarships.
We will send you a graduation. You survived the warehouse management demo certificate.
Now, this is terrific. Thank you so much for putting this webinar on.
You betcha.
You're welcome.
Andy,
yes.
This is Diane from Dime. I got a question. When you were doing your shipping, where do you put the freight costs?
Yeah, I have it turned off.
Okay.
But in the part of that Agility, and I think I may have closed it already, did I? No. Part of the, when I did my order billing and order, I don't know if I have another one available or not. I guess I don't. I could have put it in right here.
So you manually type it in?
Yep. Unless you're integrated with a shipping software that we can read it out of.
Yeah, like FedEx. We use FedEx quite often.
Right, right. And the only thing that you would have to do is, are you currently reading the Macola orders into Starship so that it knows the order number? I'm Starship or the World Ship or what have you?
The World Ship, yeah, it synced up to Macola.
Okay. As long as it knows the Macola order number, we can then take that freight and write it back into Macola.
Okay.
One more piece of that's just interesting for the future is we just got back from the Macola conference in Phoenix, and what Wisys was showing there is that they're working on a tablet app where you can take the tablet, and they had a scanner hooked up to their tablet, and they were actually working from the tablet doing this work, and it was really fascinating.
The problem in the past with the tablets have been that there were no scanners. You basically had to use your camera. But now, I forget the company, but they've come out with like a piggyback scanner that is attached to the back of the tablet, which is a more reliable scanner and talks to the scanner via Bluetooth and makes it a viable solution. The only problem with the tablets is, these things are ruggedized and are guaranteed to withstand a 6-foot drop onto solid concrete. Try doing that with a tablet. 4 times out of 5, it's not going to work. So the only thing that you're going to have to watch out for with a tablet is it's not as rugged as these simple 1990s are.
All right.
Okay. If nobody has any other questions, we'll go ahead and adjourn. If you wish to see a repeat, we've recorded this session, and just send us a request. We'd be happy to send you a link so that you can see the recording of the session.
Or if you'd like any more information or more detailed demo, let us know. Just give us a call. Thank you for attending.
All right. Thank
Thank
you all.
you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.